Nigeria's annual inflation rate increased to 21.47% in November from 21.09% in October, as food prices rose sharply for the 10th consecutive month. The National Bureau of Statistics says the increase is due to a combination of factors, including a sudden spike in demand before the Christmas season, higher import costs as a result of the Naira's depreciation, and an overall increase in production costs. A separate index of food prices revealed that inflation in November was 24.13%, up from 23.72% in October, as Africa's most populous country continues to battle with rising essential food prices. The government anticipates that inflation will average 17.16% next year and stay in the double digits. This data comes as the World Bank says it has cut Nigeria's growth forecast for 2022 to 3.1% from 3.8%. Muktar Mohammed, financial analyst and CEO of Asheer Dynamic Solutions, joins me now via the phone. Muktar, when we're looking at this data, we're seeing that inflation is rising. Basically, 12 months out of this year, it's been 10 months of a rise for Nigeria's inflation rate, the National Bureau putting it at 21.47%. Given the additional end of the year pressure, is it really something we should be concerned about, or we should have really expected it because of the trend we've seen?
Well, it's not surprising that we are having those increments. We've always said it. If you look at events that have happened in between when we had the last inflationary report, and now then you shouldn't be so surprised about what we are having now, because we've seen a lot of issues that have to do with fuel crisis. We've also seen the devaluation tactically from that's in the official window from about 420 to about 430 up to 443. So definitely when you put all that together, you'll be surprised what we're having now.
So in terms of this, because the MBS is saying that some of this is also coming from the increased pressure of the end of the year, of the festivities and things. If you were to make a prediction for January 2023, would we possibly see a potential decrease? Because there is expectation that December 2022's number is going to sustain the height, or rather the months of increase. But if the pressure from end of the year is relieved in January, could we also see a potential actual decrease, even however minute it might be?
Well, I think the Monetary Policy Committee have done foresee this. That's why they said they increased the exchange rate over the festivity period and election period. So definitely, I think they factor that into it. Will we see a hike we will see a spark in the inflationary figure? Definitely we will. If you look at, we've not even been talking about inflationary pressure, festivity pressure in November. We wonder what will happen in December, coupled with the electoral campaign. And that is why you've seen the CBN are trying to come up with some administrative monetary policy tools, like what we've seen, cash reduction through the ATM and others. So all these are geared towards controlling inflation. But on the long run, would that be able to achieve that? I think if we look at what they've done for the past 7 months, for the past 10 months before we saw this slight increase, you could be a little bit optimistic. But again, some of these things are not in their hands, like the current fuel crisis are not in their hands any longer, because they are not NNPC, the sole importer of petroleum products, and they have to stop for FX too, and that FX has gone up in the official window. So definitely, those are issues that will be out of their own hands, and so those could also be issues that could spike in inflation, because in other states now, presently in Kaduna State, and fuel price here is about 303 naira per liter if you don't want to queue. So you could imagine what that would do to cost of living and transportation in Kaduna State alone.
Yeah. All right. So this inflation data from the MBS is also coming as the World Bank yesterday announced that it cut Nigeria's 2022 growth forecast. Now, it said that it was due to slow economic growth in the third quarter from a year earlier, which was dragged down by the oil sector and weak performance in other areas of the economy. So it's moved from 3.8%, which was the previous forecast, to 3.1%. Looking at the factors stated and this downward movement of the growth forecast, is it really the real picture of things?
Well, I also say we shouldn't be surprised by that again. If you look at the oil sector, it has not really done so much for the Nigerian economy, especially since the hike in the international price, crude oil international price going up since the Russia-Ukraine crisis started. What we have seen, we've seen a gradual whereby the NNPC, which is not able to remit anything to the Federation account, so that has also drawn out our earnings and also affected our economy, especially states are not able to implement a lot of projects because some of them depend solely on the allocation they get from the Federation account, which actually have to do with the sale of crude oil. So definitely, we are not surprised about that. Going forward, are we going to see any major change on that? What we've seen of this administration, I don't think we'll see any major change for the next 6 months until the new administration comes in. But when you look at the new administration, what they are saying and their body language, it seems to be saying that fuel subsidy regime is coming to an end. And the NNPC will want to take such decision at the moment, but they don't have the political will to do that because of the electoral campaign that is starting. So definitely, I'm not surprised by what they say and what will happen in the first quarter. But remember that these are projections because a single change in indices would also be to our advantage, and a single change in indices could also reduce the growth rate. And what I mean that is that remember they are giving this slow growth in the oil sector for the first quarter of next year because of our production level. But remember that of recent we've seen a rise in our production level because they seems to be tackling oil thieves in the Niger Delta using the Tompolo security team. So definitely we've seen that we are moving up to about 1 million barrels per day. So definitely we expect that could go as high as 1.4 million barrels in the first quarter of 2023. So that could also be a game changer that we see an increase in our good projection going forward.
So, Muktar, I want to look at something else that the World Bank says, and I need us to do this quite quickly. So the World Bank has said Nigeria would have to make hard choices or face worse economic downturn in the months and the years ahead. You've mentioned, of course, the fuel subsidy, and that's a hard choice that many administrations have been kicking down the line. But beyond that, what do you think are some of the top 1-2 things that Nigeria, whether it's this administration or the next, needs to do in the coming years to start reversing the trend we've seen from the country in recent times?
I didn't get that question.
So in terms of the hard choices, the World Bank says Nigeria will have to make hard choices to make different, to have different consequences in the long run. What are the hard choices you think we need to make?
First, we remove subsidy.
You mentioned
that is the major. Removing of subsidy will bring about 6 trillion naira into our economy. That will be huge. Number one, that is going to reduce the pressure on the exchange rate. So, and that also is going to make sure there are jobs in the petroleum sector, because that will be that we have finally fully deregulated that sector. So that's one of the hardest decisions that we have to take. Secondly, we could see a devaluation of the currency again. Maybe I will get to maybe between 480, 500. So that could also bring down the difference between the parallel market and the official market. And when that happens, the advantage is that the foreign investors will begin to come into the country, and that also will not be static. So you definitely will have a market determining exchange rate. By the time our reserve begin to grow, then it could also be one of those game changers. For me, if we're able to take those two decisions, it will help the Monetary Policy Committee in not raising rates any longer, because that in turn also we bring down our apathy for luxury, especially in the area of governance. Then the other hard decision that governance we need to take again is we must look ourselves in the eyes and tell ourselves the truth that recurrent expenditure is higher than capital expenditure. And if you want to reduce recurrent expenditure, we may have to reduce the labor forces, especially in the government-owned agencies, especially if the committee set up by the presidency is anything to go by. There might be merger of some parastatals that are also doing the same thing that other parastatals are doing. And when they do those mergers, there might be right sizing. So those are hard decisions that we need to take. But as I say, we might not have the political will to take those decisions in the first quarter of this year. But maybe going forward, when the new administration comes to power, they might be able to take those hard decisions that in the interim will be tough for Nigeria, but going forward could be the game changer for our economy and also for the labor forces, especially in the area of creation of jobs.
All right, Muktar Mohammed, as always, thank you for your time and do have a fantastic weekend.
You too. Thank you.
The World Bank is also forecasting growth in Africa's largest economy to slow to 2.9% in 2023. And again, as my guest said, that is a projection. One positive thing can change everything, and one negative thing can make things worse for Nigeria's economy and Nigerians next year. Well, we will have to wait to see. And that's as much as we can take on Business Edge today. Don't forget to follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can download our mobile app. You can also head to our website to keep up to date with stories from across the continent and beyond. At 12 p.m. West African time, News Central Now comes your way from our studios in Lagos, Nigeria. I'm Tolulope Adeleru-Balogun. Have a fantastic weekend.